So, time to go for another walk into town on this absolutely gorgeous day. Topic for today is violence. I was chatting with a woman online who seems really cool, very attractive, not just physically, but also in her values, which matter a lot to me. And we talked enough that we figured out that she has some goals that I don't really fit into. She wants to have a husband and a kid. And she's actually open to alternative relationship styles, including other people. So that part's cool. But I really thought about, why wouldn't I make a good father? And the thing is, I would have made a good father had that option been available to me. And I recall being a young man and making decisions for the rest of my life about what I wanted to do and not. And I was pretty conscious in those decisions. And I determined that I would never really be able to have a child. It would always be the woman's child. That's what the legal structure supports. And so then I would, if I had a child, I would want to probably be near that child. I would want to be a good father, probably. I have two primary father figures in my life, my biological father and my adoptive father. And I have some father issues, I suppose. I don't know. I don't really want to be the father that creates a child then leaves. And I don't want to be the father that has to follow the woman around who controls my life via the child. And I pay for a child I have limited access to. And the courts are involved because really the government and the woman own the child. And I considered, as I thought, well, what if I want to have a child? How could I do it? And the only way I could think of it was adoption, or surrogate birth. And even then I'd want to have a woman in my life to raise the child. But that may or may not be stable. I suppose if I always had custody of the child, then I could have had a child. And I probably would have gone with a boy, just because I'm a guy. And there's a lot of assumptions and I think bogus judgments about men and stuff. But I think having a little girl, I don't know. It just seems like it'd be easier to have a little dude. And I would have really loved it, actually. I would have been a good father. And it's not that I regret it at all. It's an opportunity cost issue. You can't do it all. And when I was younger, I wasn't really in a financial position. I was working all the time. I was working 60 hours a week for a long time. And I think just given my choice set in life, I chose not to do it. I don't feel a biological urge. I don't feel a genetic urge to pass on my genes or anything. My brother has 3 kids. So he's taking care of enough genetic passing onness. Although I wouldn't even care if I was an only child. I still would feel the same. So yeah, unfortunately, that's a case where with this woman, I'm just not compatible with what she wants, which is totally cool. I think that's exactly what potential couples or people involved with each other should do, is find deal breakers. She should go find a husband who fits in with her goals. That's awesome. And, it's a bummer a little bit because I kind of have an attraction to her. But that's all right. It's a really big world. And I can find other people with good values and people I'm attracted to. And in fact, that's one of my projects I need to work on is I'm working on with some people now, creating a system of value matching people and events and groups and things so that we can actually find people we want to work with. So we'll see. if that works out. But I was going to talk about violence, I thought. Oh, yeah, it's because I was talking about violence with her, and she's fairly liberty-minded, which I like. But if we're going to have freedom, in some cases, that means we're going to have to deal with violence. And we are surrounded by violence in everything. I mean, the state itself has its grubby hand into everything about society. And of course, we're essentially then living as slaves, and the slaves fight among themselves. Yeah, in her case, she was bringing up a situation where at some liberty-oriented gathering, she heard about somebody who said that they were an organizer of it, apparently, and they said they would be willing to call the police if there's a problem. And this person kind of had a negative reaction to that, thinking we should handle things ourselves. If we're going to be very liberty-minded and own ourselves and create our own spaces, then we need to be willing to directly solve violence problems. And I actually agree with that, depending. It's very complex. Because, and it depends on exactly what thing is occurring that you're responding to. I mean, if somebody starts to act violently to another person near you, I think you as an individual, hopefully with the support of the group and hopefully with their involvement, can shut down that coercive behavior real quick using violence. Using violence to stop the initiation of force. It's a defensive use of force. I guess we could probably try and define the terms violence and force and all that. But let's just imagine somebody gets really drunk and stupid and violent. I think using force against them would be legally justified. And that's one of my concerns, is under what conditions and how do you apply that force so that the default people who claim to have a monopoly on violence, you don't get in trouble with them. Like, let's say someone you find out is a pedophile. They're abusing children. And you decide you're going to put a stop to that. Now, you can kick them out of your community. There's been no retribution, which is usually not necessarily a great goal for justice anyway. Restitution would be better. But there really isn't much that can be done if somebody does a really evil thing like that. Killing them, seems all right, but that could put you in conflict with the authorities that exist beyond your group, and probably should. I mean, if I had a group of people and somebody did a heinous act, rape, child abuse, come to mind, although I think any kind of large assault, really. I mean, I understand rape's especially offensive to us, but somebody who assaults other people, I recall some drunken times when I've done things I shouldn't have done. See, should I have been killed? Should I be now? Who knows? It was a long time ago. But, and there's a question of vigilante justice, and I have seen vigilante justice, or been aware of it occurring, when there is no justice system you can turn to. So, as far as the health of the group, I'm concerned about us enforcing something that is definitely illegal in the default society. If at all possible, maybe you should turn it over to the default authorities, because you could actually get in trouble, for example, killing someone for a heinous act. So I guess, you could always have something just accidentally happen to that person, but you're getting into some really difficult areas for justice. And we don't live in an ideal world, and probably wouldn't create one even without the state. We probably would create a big mess. I don't think it has to be that way. I'd like to prepare ourselves to not have it be that way. But let's go back to something very simple, and that is, in the moment, if coercion is occurring, yes, I think everybody should be ready to step up. I think we should be trained for de-escalation of the problem, if at all possible, so that our reaction to it is not greater than the problem itself. You know, I mean, if somebody spills a beer on someone accidentally, I don't really think we need to chop their arm off. You know, there should be, I mean, it's somewhat difficult. What if someone's just being a general asshole? Well, banishment is my first solution, where we have reputation management. We track people and their reputation, because like right now I communicate with people online and I don't even know their real name. I don't know who the fuck they actually are. I don't know if I'm being manipulated. I don't know if I'm being harvested for data. I don't have any idea if what someone presents to me is even a valid person. I mean, for all I know at this point, they could be AI. They could be AI, which is, you know, not a huge threat to me, but it's annoying at best. And so, especially as social media is taken over completely by scammers and AI, and soon 90% of the accounts on any social platform you're on will be fake. We're going to cross fake videos every day. It's just, you know, if we're going to talk about creating communities, they need to be in person, and reputation tracking will matter a lot. I mean, I've hosted people in my home who I know must have horrible reputations based on their behavior, but I was unable to access that reputation prior to them coming here. In fact, there's one guy I had to kick out, which I hate doing. I've kicked out very few people, but when it does happen, they're usually not happy about it, unsurprisingly. So, like one guy I had checked up on his reputation with a community he was at prior, and he showed up with his luggage expecting to live here for free forever. I mean, I've dealt with that kind of people. And this guy was creeping all the chicks out. So I think they probably would have ended up leaving if I had kept him here. I mean, he was acting really irrationally. And I like women, so I don't like it when guys creep them out. They shouldn't do that. Anyway, so I had checked with the community he was at prior and asked them, is this guy a cool guy? And they said, sure. I didn't get into detail about it. But then after I kicked him out, I contacted him again and I was like, you know, I had to kick that guy out. And you said he was okay. And they said, oh, well, we had the same kind of problems with him. I was like, geez. And I understand why they wouldn't tell me, because it only costs them if they tell me that. Because then I can say, well, those people said you're bad. And now this guy is going to be pissed off at those people. And I didn't publish anything about it. I didn't write online what his name is. And he's a total creep. So I guess I'm guilty too of not adding to a reputation for him. But, you know, I could also get sued for slander or libel if it's written. Slander's verbal, libel's written. So there's actually legal risks, potentially, to creating a reputation management system. And there's also the risk of people falsely accusing others of things. Although if their reputation is also being managed, then they could get a reputation of being a person who's always complaining about other people. And then you start to wonder, maybe it's you. You know? So these kind of systems don't exist. We don't have social justice in any organized fashion. We operate on gossip, rumor, and lies. Sometimes outright lies get told about people. They've certainly been told about me. There's been a variety of them over the years. And I'm a freak enough that people will believe anything said about me. I mean, some things about me are true and some things aren't. And I'm willing to admit to some of the things I've done or have been. Like, well, I'm not going to mention, I don't feel like it. I'm not going to mention them online to you. But, you know, I'm aware of the fact I've been a dumb fuck at best at times. And I wish more people were self-aware at all, because some of them aren't. So anyway, back to simple, on-the-spot, violent situations. We can handle them pretty easily, but my preference is, if we have good reputation tracking, is those people never get invited in the first place. Which make me wonder, am I on anybody's don't invite list? I probably am, although I'm on everybody's don't invite list because I don't go anywhere and I'm not going to. I can't really leave. So it's really pointless to invite me to anything at this point. So anyway, working with these other folks on developing this system would serve a lot of people's needs. Because so many people, as got pointed out in this conversation with this chick, just a brief chat, people will lie. If you have a profile online that says, this is what I'm looking for, because she's looking for some fairly specific things that are not totally typical, but actually sound really great to me mostly. I'm not in tune with the kid thing because I don't feel like taking on that responsibility. And I don't feel like taking it on and doing a bad job. I will not be a bad father, ever. Which means I won't be a father. So, anyway, the problem is people will lie to you. If they know what your situation is, if you're open about what you desire and don't desire, then people will be manipulative, sociopaths, and lie to take advantage of you. That's so exceedingly common, it's ridiculous. And so any system that gets created has to have somebody admit to their values up front, not knowing what the right answers are to take advantage of a successful social setup. You with me? Understand? So I want thousands of questions, and we're working on those. It's actually a difficult thing, and it's discriminatory, judgmental, but hopefully then a lot of people who are not really compatible could not hook up. I don't just mean hook up as individuals, but you could not invite people to events that they're going to act like an asshole at. If they have coercion problems with people, sexual issues, I mean, geez, Buddhist monks out there have sex and abuse their followers. There was one woman recently, it got turned around, where she filmed herself having sex with Buddhist monks, high-level Buddhist monks who have access to the temple funds, since Buddhists aren't actually very poor. Not all of them. And she then extorted money from them. Bunch of money. I forget what the amount was, but she made some good bucks off the Buddhist monks until she got arrested. Anyway, people are all liars, even Buddhist monks, who say that they're not having sex, but they are. Sex seems to be this underlying problem with a lot of coercive activities because it's so private, which is another reason in a small community of people who maybe have agreed to keep things private among themselves could make sure that no one's getting sexually abused, manipulated. Because a two-person thing becomes, one person's word against the other. And I don't think we need to pick on one gender or the other. They're both, or whatever other genders you want to make up, they're both horrible. They're all horrible. People are just terrible. That's a terrible conclusion to come to, but that's the one I've come to. So, if we're going to fix those problems, we need reputation tracking. We need a system for inventorying values and expectations so we can match people up so they can actually serve each other to create win-win relationships. Like I told this woman, I actually wrote something up online about why wouldn't I make a good father? And then I sent her a link to that. And it's not that I don't like her. It's just we don't have compatible needs. And nobody has to be upset about that. Some people get so upset if you're like, they feel rejected. If you're like, well, I don't want you. When you're really, what you're saying is, I don't want an incompatible situation that would not work for either one of us. And some people seem to think everyone in the world should want them. I'm like, I don't think that at all. I'm scared shitless of people. I don't know that I want hardly anybody wanting me unless we can have a very positive relationship of some kind, whether that's intimate or business or anything else. So, I don't know. I'm just not looking for trouble. And that's how you become a hermit, which is also not a very good way to go. I checked it out. It's lonely. It's dangerous. It's boring. So I need to be part of creating such a system because I want to use it. And I want to match up with a bunch of people who can eventually own my land after I die, and who hopefully, if this agreement's in place, won't kill me to get my land. Hopefully they'll find me useful enough to keep around as we slowly transition more and more functions of operating an increasingly complex piece of land, an increasingly complex community, offloading tasks, developing businesses, developing individuals, recruiting more people, having a good food system, raising our own food, preserving it through dehydration and other methods, like create this really somewhat utopian, yes, I'm aware of the etymology of the word. Just shut up. Sorry, I'm referring to pedantic fuckwads here. But really an ideally designed community, and I've never heard of anybody talk about it like that. And assuming that even though we collect really good people with good reputations, assuming that at heart, we're all basically selfish. And at heart, we understand that relationships are transactional. And you shouldn't stay in them if they're not working for you. And that the community has to work for a diverse amount of people and changing relationships within it. And that we have to plan for that. None of this till death do us part coupling up bullshit. But people finding that community is so valuable for them as an individual, they have great loyalty to it, and making sure the structure of the community itself is created so it removes the ways that people can gain from corruption and coercion, because there's a billion of them, and people who want to take advantage of things will find many ways to do it. And we're emotional, strange animals, and so it's not that hard to create abusive situations, even among people who claim to love each other. So I believe that there can be a solution set for that, a bunch of templates for various types of communities that no one's ever trapped in, because that results in weird cults and stuff that don't have personality cults or some personalities running them, even though you pretend it's consensus decision making, and having most decisions already decided, written down, how you do things, what values you live by. Over-engineer it. Over-socially engineer it. Because just getting a bunch of people together, because we're all good people and it will all work out. No, it won't. It will fail almost all the time. That's such a common story. And we can go through the list of the reasons for it, and we can start knocking them off, figuring out various solutions, figuring out responses to problems, planning ahead for birth till death of how that community is going to survive and people can actually serve each other. That's not the easiest task. And you've got your own take on it. You've got your own fears regarding community. You've got your own family background, societal background. You understand we live with various evils. You've focused on different ones than other people have based on your own damage or what you see as an opportunity or a need. And so there's a lot of figuring out of stuff to do. And that's one of the reasons I haven't completed the task, and neither have these other folks, because it's harder than it sounds. And I'm imagining, communities that can really grow. You think about Dunbar's number, 140 people or so, and that's a good social unit. But I also saw another number, I forgot what it was called, and that one was 1,600 and something. So approximately 10 times bigger than Dunbar's number, a little bit bigger. I forget I gotta look that up. I have notes, I take notes on so much crap. But that actually sounds better to me. Not that everybody considers themselves as part of smaller units within it, but that they have some overarching philosophy that allows them to trust each other. And if you have that many people on the same page in terms of values, who are trying to build businesses, who are trying to develop the skills of every member, who are committed to each other, then you have a lot of leeway for social movement. You know, relationships can change because they will. And you could really be powerful at that point. You could have businesses of all kinds serving people. Why did I take this trail, not that one? Shit. Should have taken the other trail. And I don't feel like undoing that. Fuck. Anyway, so that's a long rant. And the reason it's important is because the mass of people, not just men, but the mass of people lead lives of quiet desperation. The sexism I see online is terrible, understandable, but terrible. Because, yeah, we fit mostly into two blobs of gender, and gender is used in ways that are pretty evil in different ways. And I don't really think either one is particularly good or bad. Definitely not good. Definitely a lot of bad. And so regardless of what a behavior is stereotyped as being part of one gender or the other, I think we have to look at things from a non-gendered point of view, even if in actual reality we live in gendered roles. I'm totally fine with that. You know, we should be freed up to live in a gendered role if we wish, but not locked into it. And then I see people online talking about how, you know, I'm from the United States, right? And Europeans in particular, just to stereotype them, just absolutely love saying how dumb Americans are. Meaning people from the US, by the way. I'm aware there's continents and shit. Let's not get pedantic. And I block them. Because I know America as a country politically has serious problems. But then again, problems are all over the goddamn world. Corruption runs everything. You know, you might be able to find a few countries where you can say it's less. But in general, is pervasive. So I don't like it when people insult Americans for being American. Focus on bad behaviors. You'll find those bad behaviors tend to be everywhere. And certainly I'm okay with insulting every government in the world. There is nobody above criticism. But to be nationalist in that regard, which I realize that word is not being used correctly there, but to be bigoted against the nationality is just dumb. I don't like it. Not into it. And there's a whole bunch of other kinds of bigotry that I'm not into, and a few that I am. You know, like, for example, I'm bigoted against the initiation of force, which is all around us. We live in a swirling mass of slavery. Goodbye. I'm such a cheery motherfucker.